What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Paul's Talks, and today we're going to be getting familiar with failure. That's right, we're going to be getting acquainted with failure and understand the relationship or the connection you need to have with failure, right? We're just going to jump right into it. So, I covered this some time ago, talking about failure, right? And I want to kind of talk about it a little bit more because I feel like failure gets a bad rep. I feel like the relationship that people develop with failure is a negative one, and it shouldn't be taken that way. I feel like it's important to develop a proper relationship with failure as it pertains to your growth, right? Because oftentimes we feel like we mess things up, or we're not good at certain things, or we feel like it's the end of the world if we get this wrong. If anything, I feel like the school system that we go through really puts that, it programs us to try and be right and perfect at all times. Otherwise, we fail and we don't progress. Like, that was the vibe that I got whenever I was in school. Like, if I fail this, then I cannot progress. And that is something that you can take that takes on its own thing in your life. And now you feel like if you fail in your job or wherever it is, whatever profession that you're at, then you're not going to advance to the next level. And that's just not true. I feel like it's important to develop a relationship, a proper relationship with failure, because it allows you to grow and expand. Because really, when you fail, you just learn a new way of how not to, or how to do something, right? How are we ever going to learn and evolve if we don't fail? Literally, failure is the equivalent of evolution. Failure is the equivalent of your growth. You literally cannot grow if you do not fail. Some of the greatest inventions that we have today started as failures, and now they're a great success. And most people, they ridicule or they criticize and they have opinions about what it is that you're doing or how it is that you're doing it, right? But that's okay, right? That's okay, because that's all part of the process. If they feel like, oh, you failed or you did this wrong and you shouldn't be doing it anymore, then, well, that's just how they feel about themselves, right? Because they can't do that thing that you're doing so well, right? So that's why I say you have to develop a better relationship with failure, because literally that is teaching you and fortifying you to become a better version of yourself. For instance, like whenever I first got started on YouTube, my first video, it was not my best, honestly. And I started using my phone and, just using whatever resources I had available to me at the time. And honestly, I didn't know which way it was going, but I knew that I had a message that I needed to convey. But in order to get that message out, I had to post. I had to put myself out there. And as time went on, I began to develop a strategy behind what it is that I was doing. And I began to build an audience. And I began to understand what value I brought to that audience. So it takes time. It takes trial and error to do anything. But you have to execute. Excuse me, sorry. I think one of the biggest things that happen is when we feel like we fail too often, or if we have a bad relationship with failure, we begin to become stagnant and we do more analyzing calculations than actual execution, which actually stagnates us because analysis creates paralysis. And so you're doing all these calculations and you're doing all this thinking and you're trying to formulate how to make the greatest video or how to produce the greatest marketing plan or whatever the case is, but it's not going to work if you don't execute. It doesn't matter how much you crunch the numbers if you're not doing anything. You have to be putting in the work every single day, even on the days that you don't want to, because that is going to build you, right? Even if you feel like, oh, well, I don't really have a plan, I don't want to look like ridiculous in front of the camera or whatever the case is, you still have to put yourself out there. You have to do what is necessary for you to become a better version of yourself. Believe you me, I have failed plenty of times in my life. But the number one thing I learned is I had to develop a better relationship with failure, which in essence, I built a better relationship with myself because I understood myself. I understood that I can't do things like certain people. I have to do things the way I do them best, to the best of my ability, right? You may not be like the other person, and honestly, I feel like failure comes from comparison because you're comparing your results to another person's results, and their results are different from yours because they put in the work that was best suited for them. You can't do what that other person does, so you have to do what's best for you. You have to do what is best at your ability with what you have right now. That's the number one thing I think about social media is so often we see like all of these different influencers and people that we maybe idolize or look up to, but we start to compare our results to theirs, looking at their highlight reels and not understanding the things that they had to go through in order to get them to where they are today. Understand that you are in the process of creating your own highlight reels because one day you're going to look back and realize, wow, I really came far. And the beautiful thing about coming far is there's a pivot. There's a pivot that happens in your life that transforms your life in an instant, and at some point you're not even going to realize when your life started to change. All you're going to know is you made it. All you're going to know is all the work that you've been doing up to this point has led you to where you are right now. And it's going to feel so natural to you that when somebody asks you like, yo, what did it take for you to get here? Or asking you questions pertaining to like the work that you did to put yourself in that position. And you're going to look back and be like, wow, I remember those days. I remember the days when I felt like this was useless. I remember the days when I felt like I wasn't enough, or I wasn't the type of person who could add value or stumble all over my words, just things like that. But I was willing to express myself. I was willing to expose myself. I was willing to put myself out there, and that in itself allowed me to grow into the person that I am today. And you have to take on that same mindset to understand that it takes really being vulnerable with yourself. Really being vulnerable with yourself. That is what allows you to grow into the person that you need to be in order to reach the destinations that you're trying to reach. But it all starts with developing a better relationship with failures. And honestly, failures are the best analytics you can have, because if something goes wrong, now you can figure out, okay, what did I do that didn't work? What can I subtract? What can I add? And how can I make this thing better? How do you expect to build your business if you're not willing to fail? How do you expect to build your brand if you're not willing to fail? How do you expect to build your self-confidence if you're not willing to fail? I believe that failure is the construct of self-confidence. Failure is the construct of self-confidence because people that are self-confident were once people who didn't have any confidence whatsoever. And they had to work hard to get to where they are. They had to work hard to be as confident as they are today. They didn't just wake up one day and was just like, oh yeah, I'm so confident. I know what I'm doing. Life is so great for me. No, they decided to work on themselves. So if you feel like someone's being arrogant or cocky or whatever the case is, just know that they put in the work to be in those positions. No one does these things overnight. It is a process. And it's a process that requires consistency. And consistency is the catalyst for discipline. So once you develop a consistent habit of doing something, the discipline will follow right behind that. All the time. Because it's going to come to a point where it's like, you can't go without doing this certain thing, right? I spoke about this too. We're going to be talking about habits now. I spoke about this too. Somebody asked me a question. How do you eliminate distractions in your life? And the best way to eliminate distractions in your life is by placing disruptors in your daily habits. Placing disruptors in your daily habits. Like for me, I always carry a book around with me because reading was something that was a struggle for me. right? I knew I needed to read in order to become a greater version of myself and develop even more self-confidence and things of that nature. But I didn't have the habit of reading, so I had to develop it in a way. So I would buy books and I would keep books around me, and I would always carry a book with me. And at some point my mind was just like, yo, you got this book with you all the time, you might as well open it and read it. So I started to include reading in my daily habits. And sure enough, it started to take over the bad habits that I once had, and it became a new habit for me. And now it doesn't feel right if I don't read, right? But that all starts with developing a beautiful, lovely, harmonious relationship with fear. Or with failure, excuse me. With failure, right? And fear too. You have to develop a relationship with fear, but failure is where it starts. Because failure is an equivalent to fear, because you're afraid to make a mistake. Because you're afraid of what people might think of you, how you may look, how you may come off. That's fine. That's all fine. But you have to start somewhere. And I highly recommend, I would like for you to consider starting there. And that's it. That's all I got for you. Hopefully this was able to add some value. I hope that you were able to get something from this. I feel like this was a really powerful video, and I hope that it helped a lot. And as always, thank you for being on this journey with me. Thank you for allowing me to be on this journey with you. I truly believe we do better when we grow together, so let's continue to grow with one another. And as always, make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe, click the notification bell to get notified whenever I publish another video. And leave a comment down in the comment section and let me know what value that you got from this and what nuggets you were able to take away from this as well. As always, my merch, if you love it, Anything's Possible merch, go and check it out. The link is in the description. Or you can go to inmypurpose.com. That's inmypurpose.com. And yeah, and like I always say, may you be creators and creative. May you be loved and loved. May you be present, may you be free, and may you be abundant at all times. Peace.